So today's lesson is on device drivers. Drivers are the programs that hang out in the computer. So a computer is not just a singular object. It's a lot of objects as we've figured out. Basically, everything's coming back into that motherboard and into that CPU. Well, all these things like keyboards and mice and monitors and printers and sound cards, all this stuff is made by a lot of different people. It comes from different places and is made at different times. So, to make these things work together, we need what's called device drivers. A device driver is a small program, and I say small, program that helps the device communicate with the computer successfully so they work together in the best format. Um, so, what do you need to know about which device driver to use? Well, you need the model and manufacturer of the device and of your computer. So, you really need to know those two things. Generally speaking, you're just going to search for the device, but there are some instances where you got to be pay attention to which computer you're actually plugging that device into, and make sure you download the right driver for that. So some of this comes back to, and I mentioned the computer things, there are things that are called proprietary devices. So the term proprietary refers to the fact that the manufacturer retains uh, responsibility and control of the device itself. And this is true in things like Apple. It is very tough to take non-Apple parts and apply them to an Apple computer or an Apple device. Whereas if you have like an Intel-based computer or a Linux-based computer, one of those others that are out there, you can use many different types of add-ons to it. So proprietary refers to some of the computer types we deal with. For proprietary type systems, that driver comes from the manufacturer, and that's all completely controlled by the manufacturer. So how do you install the device driver on your computer? Generally, when you get your computer from the factory, hopefully it's got the device drivers already on it, or there's an installation disk of some type. When you get that device, let's say I purchased something online, I purchased me a new sound card. That sound card generally will come with what's called a CD. And that CD will generally have the device drivers you need to get uploaded on that. And it may be on an installation program or whatever, but what it's doing is installing device drivers so it can work. So there's two ways you can really do this. One is you can download the drivers from the internet. It's a little more interactive. And the easier way is using a CD that comes with the device. Sometimes that CD is important. If you were to install, say, a new router or something like that that's actually connecting you to the internet, it is really difficult to look it up on the internet if you're not connected yet. It can be quite a headache. So generally, device driver is installed either from a CD or from downloading. So why is selecting device drivers from other than the manufacturer's website not recommended? Here's the deal. A manufacturer makes a device. It is in their complete best interest for you to be completely satisfied with that device. So when they install drivers, their goal is to make you happy so that you either give them good claims or otherwise. Plus, they're the manufacturer. If you get it from somebody else's website, let's say they say, hey, we'll do your drivers for you. There's a reason they're doing that. Very few things on the internet are done just out of the goodness of somebody's heart. Generally, they're getting something back. So when you download their drivers, a lot of times what you're doing is downloading their program that might get you some adware, get you some malware, might get you some other cool stuff, run some mailing lists or whatever it is. So you're getting stuff with that driver that you desperately did not want. So why is it important to update your drivers on a regular basis? Because stuff changes. As the computer processing changes, as architectures change, not necessarily physically, but as the programs change, it changes how the devices interact. And a lot of times, as a device is set around and people have used it, they found flaws in it, or a lot of times even they'll find ways to use the device in an unanticipated positive way. By uploading that driver and updating that driver, you're going to get that new stuff, either the fixes or the additions. So let's kind of look over here before I get to this last question. This is your device manager. If you have a uh, Intel-based PC or one of those type-based PCs, and you're using Windows, all I did was go down the left-hand white box in Windows, and I typed Device Manager, and I opened it. This shows me all the devices hooked up to my computer. And by clicking on one of those, say monitors, I show the different devices that are on it. I have two generic monitors hooked in. They're both fine. One is on the laptop, the other one's just plugged in, but neither one of them are very special. So it loads device drivers. I can go to that device and I can pull up properties. And that tells me, hey, you've got a monitor, it's just a standard type, it's using your NVIDIA card to run it, and it's working properly. This is probably one of the most common lies I ever see, because invariably you go here and it's frustrating, but it means the driver's working, not necessarily the device. So the driver, when you click driver, it's got some details you can find out about the driver, but this is pretty much what you need to know here. If you want to find out, hey, is my driver up to date? This one's from 2006. Normally that'd be problematic, but it's a generic monitor. It really hasn't changed in a long time. And I actually run a program to update my drivers. Down here it says update driver. And you can click here, and if you clicked here, it would search the internet and see, hey, is there any drivers out there? Or you could click here and browse the computer. And this is one of those places where you can definitely use that installation CD. By clicking here, I can select that installation CD and download the driver from there. So if things have gone bad, I can always go back to that original download. And it is important to constantly update your drivers. Again, I use a program by AVG that goes ahead and updates them for me every Sunday, which makes me happy because it saves me from going down this list and updating everything, even though I forget sometimes. All right, so that's the device manager. Be careful in there. Uninstalling drivers sometimes is necessary, but I would not do it just on a whim. I'd make sure you understand what you're doing. So in our classroom, we have a bunch of computers using Linux. They're actually using an Ubuntu load of Linux. Why is it beneficial when it comes to device drivers? I picked the Linux system for the classroom for a couple reasons. One, I didn't have a lot of budget to spend, and I had computers that were basically sitting on the shelf for 4 months between use, and then we take them apart and we put them back together, and this can end up sometimes them crashing. It's beneficial when it comes to drivers because a Linux system pretty much works with any kind of device out there, and it kind of has the driver support built into the program because this is maintained by a lot of open source people. And the other point is, honestly, it's free for me, and it works great for that. So operating systems are a later version we'll talk about. I just wanted to make sure my class knew that Linux I was using, it had some advantages, especially in this scenario. I hope that helps on drivers. My suggestion is take a look at your drivers. Be careful. Do not hit uninstall just randomly. You can hit update and check. It does not hurt to hit update. Oh, crap. And then I said do it. I almost did it. It doesn't hurt to update in search form online. Mine's pretty fast because I check every Sunday. And it'll say, hey, that we've determined you got the best one. That'll make you feel good about yourself. It'll take you about 15, 20 minutes, depending on how fast your internet speed is. And you can go through all of them and make sure you're up to date and feel pretty good about yourself. I hope that helps some.